Hello, I'm Liam Horrigan.
And I'm Cara Alberts-Turner.
And welcome to You're On Tonight, the podcast all about understudies in the theatre industry, the people who step in and save the day when the unexpected happens. This episode, we are talking to Laura White.
Actor, dancer, and star of BBC's Doctors, and I think this is our most intimate and heartfelt chat we've had yet.
Yeah, definitely. I really love Laura's openness and willingness to share her vulnerabilities. She is so ready to talk about what she found hard while understudying on her first ever job, The Play That Goes Wrong, particularly the toll it took on her mental health. But also, she really talks about how she turned that into something so incredible. Some of the things she says are so inspiring.
But some of the stories in here too, I mean, can I just say, it's amazing to hear stories about when the play that goes wrong actually goes wrong.
Well, there's plenty more where that came from. This episode, honestly, is such a treat. And I've loved Laura from the moment I got to prat around with her on stage for the first time. And I think everyone is going to see why. She's incredible. And the change she's bringing to people now, after reflecting on her own experiences, is phenomenal.
It really is. So let's hear all about it.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for my introduction.
No, not at all. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for chatting to us.
I'm excited to be here.
Well, we actually met on Play That Goes Wrong, as it was mentioned in the intro there, and it was both of our first jobs, wasn't it? How was that as a first job for you?
I mean, it was an unexpected first job, I would say. So I trained at GSA, Guildford School of Acting, in musical theatre. And I don't know what I imagined for my first job, but I think I've always been in a bit of a sort of niche space where I've been like an actor, dancer, not so much a singer. But I think like now that Step Up and those sorts of films like don't exist anymore, I feel like I've not necessarily found my space in the industry. So I was like, I have no idea what my first job is going to be. So I had the audition come through and I was like, why not like give it a go and see what happens? So as a first job, it was, I would say, like totally unexpected. Not like anything I've ever done before. And actually an amazing company, I would say, in terms of just like such a diversity of like experience and age and people. And yeah, so as a first job, I would say it was a good one. And we got to go on tour for the first time.
Always exciting.
See so many places that I'd never seen before. So yeah.
I feel like that why not response as well when you get an audition through when you're just left drama school and you're early on in your career. You get that with anything. Yeah. You get anything through for you, even if it's I have to play the trumpet to a grade 8 level. I've never seen a trumpet, but why not? Let's give it a go. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I'll go anywhere. I'll do anything. Like you want to, yes, I can do that.
Yeah, it's the attitude of say yes in the room and,
Sorry, hang on. Hello? Oh, it's Andy. Andy, our omnipotent company manager. How's it going? There's been a what? An explosion at a nearby shampoo factory. Oh, that sounds dangerous. All right. No, you get back to it. Yeah, you must be up to your head and shoulders with that. Yeah, I'll tell her. Okay, don't worry. Thanks. Speak to you in a bit. Sorry, Laura, that was our omnipotent company manager, Andy. He said that there's been an explosion at a nearby shampoo factory,
right,
which has impacted some of the principal cast members, and you're on tonight.
Do we have time to do the...
I think maybe we'll have to skim through some of these questions pretty quick, but
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Triggered!
Well, speaking of, besides that phone call just there, what was the most memorable time you've been told you're on tonight?
My most memorable time, I think, has to be... So I understudied in The Play That Goes Wrong, first job, so did a tour, and then we all transferred and did it in the West End. And then about 3 years later, having not been in The Play That Goes Wrong, and having not done my second cover for a very long time, I was called back to do a surprise, please help us out, come and do your second cover for 2 shows and see what happens. I feel like that has to be my most memorable one.
So just to clarify, there were 2 female parts in The Play That Goes Wrong, and you covered both of them.
Yes.
So what's the difference between a first cover and a second cover, and how does that work in that show?
Yes, so works differently on different shows. For this, there are 2 female parts. I think I actually covered I covered one of the male parts as well, Trevor became Tessa, but I never actually went on. so each of us, so the two of us, myself and Louisa, who was the other female understudy, I first covered the character Sandra and second covered Annie, and Louisa first covered Annie and second covered Sandra. So in the instance that the principal person who plays the role is off, the first cover would then go on. So I would then go on as Sandra. And it was funny, actually, me and Louisa, when we first got the jobs, we were like, I feel like we're in the wrong place. Because if you meet Louisa, she's super glamorous and like girly and all of those things. And that's what the role of Sandra is. And like, I was the opposite, but we kind of had the other first covers.
So funny.
Annie was my second cover. So obviously, because I was there for 2 years, I did go on as the character.
And she's the stage manager character, isn't she, that gets thrown on in the show when things start going wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. So she like does not want to be on stage, but then like
very meta.
Very meta. But I think it was 2023 that I got the call. So which happens, we hear stories about it happening quite a lot, that they're struggling to find cover. So then they call people who've been in the show previously. But obviously, because it was my second cover, I'd actually probably gone on for Annie a total of maybe like 10 times. I don't know, not many. And the two females also fight each other. So whenever we had to go on as the character, you obviously have to reverse the fight if you're doing the first or the second cover.
Yeah. And what's the time frame? So at what point do you get the call that then you're going on? Is it a 2-show day that you went on for, or 2 shows total?
This was so 2-show day. So I got the call the day before.
Wow.
And they said, can you come and do it tomorrow? And I was kind of like, I'd actually kind of like to see what was, I was actually kind of like quite excited by the prospect of it, because I was like, I wonder how much I do actually still remember.
Yeah. It was like a test of your own mettle. Yeah.
A test. But then when I got there, I was like, oh God.
How am I back here?
I was like, ooh, no rehearsal time. Ooh, like I'm doing the backwards fight of a fight I did like 3 years ago and haven't done since. And like, it was just a lot. But the amazing thing was how much of it was in my muscle memory.
Wow.
It was just shocking. I was like, it's just here.
Yeah.
It was still in your muscle memory,
it was
that part.
Still there. Like the night before, I went over the lines and tried to like do the sort of actions in my head. But obviously there's this, you can't like make what it is to be on stage. Also with a company of people who I've never met. I don't know, when you're working with someone, you as an understudy, I think you really rely on the company to sort of support and help you through. And you can build that trust with people that you've been with for a year or 2 years. So it's just going into this space with people who I have never met before. I don't know them. They don't know me. They don't know how like beats land and things like that make it feel more comfortable as an understudy going on.
Because you're used to looking across the stage and going, oh, well, that person I know has stood there and that person I know has stood there, rather than, yes, they're in the costumes, but it is different to see someone else's face. And you're right, the rhythm of the show is going to be completely different. It's the same show, but different casts are going to have different rhythms.
Yeah, exactly. That hitting different beats, like standing in slightly different places, all things that actually do throw you off when you're not used to being in that space. So it was, baptism of fire.
How did it make you feel when you were on stage? Like, after coming back, after all that time, how did you feel realizing you were back there doing that again? I
think the amazing thing about that character is you can allow the like terrifiedness work with you. It was I was really genuinely terrified. Also, it'd been a while since I've been on stage because I'd been doing telly for a little bit then, so I was having a real moment of like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. This is so stressful. So I would say it was a mixed experience. When I actually got over the initial like fear and terror of it, it was actually quite an amazing experience. Not necessarily one, weirdly though, that I was in a hurry to repeat again. I was sort of like, I think like the lack of rehearsal time and stuff like that for me, I need it to make me feel more secure, especially in a show like that where it's like, if I'm not in the right place, something could go seriously wrong.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. Yeah. So a mix of like terror. Why is everyone staring at me? Which is kind of the point of the job. But after a while, I was having a real out-of-body experience. And also just like, oh my gosh, I forgot how fun this is as well.
Did it change your perspective slightly on, obviously, as an understudy, getting that call saying you're on tonight? Usually you think when a contract ends and the show finishes for you, you can breathe a sigh of relief. You're not going to get that call. But then you're just like, no,
You're like,
surely not. I thought I was safe from this.
Yes, like I thought this was like in the deleted part of my brain now, never to return. But I feel like it just never leaves you, these things.
That's amazing to know it's there.
I mean, so we talk about hero and horror stories for understudies. That sounds like it was a combination of the two almost perfectly, like very, very heroic, but also terrifying.
Yeah.
What are some other stories that you think are slightly more one tone when it comes to horrific or heroic for you?
I do have to say, I'm sticking with Annie for this one. The hardest thing I would say about doing a comedy is just the moments where things just land. And just like, you just drop some clang. It's like you put everything into it and then you're just staring out at the audience and they're like... And I think we all had those moments. But there's one part of the show where she has this like big episode and you're like putting every part of your body into it. You're like screaming, your body, you're going all over the place. And then you sit down and ideally at the end of it, there's a beat and everyone cheers and there's a clap.
Right.
And there was a day when I did it and it was silent.
No.
Like, honestly, and I was just sat on that chair like, I actually can't recover from it. It was so painful and awkward. And it was like that kind of like, you're just like clenching up inside, like, this is so horrific. I think with a comedy, and I think also going in when other people have already established their thing and like what the audience finds funny, and then you come in and you try something new and it just does not land. It's so painful. But also you just have to kind of like move on.
It's hard being an understudy in that situation though, because when you're playing the part every night, okay, well, I'll do it again tomorrow and I'll adjust it and then I'll do it again the next day and I'll adjust it and we'll find our feet. But as an understudy, you come in, you might get one show to give it a go and you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to give a go. And then it might be 2-3 more weeks before you get to give it a go again. That's so hard.
It's so hard. It's hard to like build up your own like rhythm with things and stuff like that.
Was it weird for that first job for you being a comedy? Was that something that you didn't expect? And how did that make you feel?
I don't think I did expect... I'd done comedy before, but very, very different style. I'd never done anything like slapstick. And I think sometimes, you know, when you're in drama school, they very much put you in your box, right? And they're like, these are the types of shows that you're going to do. This is the sort of material that you need to have prepped because this is what people are going to see you as. And I think that the box that I was put into, I did do comedy, but it was generally because they were like, you don't fit into the other spaces. So they just like make me the sort of comedic relief. Right. But I actually found that a kind of weirder shift for me was going into like, and I've played a few in my short-ish career, like really glamorous women. Like that's the part that I found more like difficult to adjust to because I was always put in these like, I don't know, the like weird or the outsider or the like funny friend or I was always put in those sorts of boxes. Or it was very much like you're going to fulfill what Black women do in musical theatre. So you're going to go into The Lion King and you're going to do Dreamgirls and you're going to do all these types of shows. So I think it was beyond the, I guess in some ways the ceiling that I had set for myself. I think it almost pushed me beyond what I thought I was capable of doing and what I thought people would see me as. So in that way, I'm actually grateful for it, I think, because it's like, well, why not?
Yeah.
You know, like just because you think you're going to do one thing, it doesn't mean that that is the thing that you're going to do. And I think I've been quite lucky actually in my career that a lot of the jobs that I've done have not been things that I've expected, because I think there was such a strong foundation of the box that I was supposed to fit into.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because drama school do tend to push you one way or the other, and then you get an agent who might see you totally differently, and then an industry that might see you totally differently.
Exactly that.
Did you then take that into the rest of your career and make decisions based on that? So if you see something come up, you're like, yeah, actually I can do that. Or do you find that you still sort of have to battle against those paths that are made by other people for you?
Yeah, I guess a bit of both. And I think in reality, it's kind of a luxury and a privilege to be in a position where you could sort of be as choosy as you'd like to be sometimes, you know. Sometimes I think you would prefer to make different choices, but that's not always offered to you. And I think specifically when it comes to things like race and ethnicity and the way that you look, you are put into boxes. That is a thing, because people have quite, I guess the industry and casting has a slightly narrower view on what people look like and where they should fit. I think it's changing, which I think is an amazing thing. But I do think that it's having that as my first job opened my own brain up to be like, I'm capable of doing other things. So like, let me try. I will always throw my hat in the ring and be like, I will do my best for this part, even if that's not received and people won't see that for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because you talk about how you were put up for those sort of more, you thought you were pigeonholed as more those like kooky characters, characterful characters.
Yeah.
But then you were also put up for glamorous characters, and that surprised you. And that to me just speaks of like a versatility. How much do you think understudying helped broaden that sense of versatility for you? Because you have to play complete opposite characters. Do you think that has a big impact?
Yeah, totally, actually. I think that's an amazing point. I think like it is doing that in its nature, isn't it? Like you do have to be versatile and broad, and like especially in that show, the characters were so different. Yeah. So you really are like tapping into different parts of yourself to step into these different characters. And that in itself is actually, I think, a really cool part of the job. That you're like, I can do these two characters that are completely different, find something to connect to in both of these, and then hopefully do a convincing job. Like that's just better in you as a performer and an actor, isn't it? Like your ability to be able to connect to people who are so completely different. Whereas actually, if I'd have just graduated and got the job in one part, that might have set a different tone for what I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and what other people would see me as well.
And during your time when you were understudying in the West End, you trained to become a wellbeing practitioner.
Yes. I think that the challenges on the mental health side of understudying or swinging is different for everyone. And I think mine, and Liam can attest to this, I'm quite like a busy person in terms of I'm like a grafter. I like to work hard. I like to have different things going on in life. And I just don't feel that comfortable with not doing anything. Yeah. And I found ours was slightly different, not necessarily to what we've all experienced, but because we were understudy ASMing. Yeah. But it basically means you have a role as an understudy, so you're covering the parts, and you also have a role as an ASM where you'll help out with the assistant stage manager. So we'd help clear up, we'd help set up, which in all honesty was quite hard. Yeah. It's quite hard, and I think it probably did contribute to some of what I was struggling with. I think some of it was about the not just sort of feeling quite isolated, not feeling like I was like contributing in a meaningful way. And some of it was definitely around some of the isolation and some of the harder parts. I think when you're ASMing as well is, you know, you're in earlier than everyone, you're leaving later than everyone else is going off to like, we had an amazing connection, you know, with us sort of understudies, but it's very hard that like everyone else is kind of like going off and going to have the pub and have a nice time, and we're here like sweeping up the snow. And
you think that side of things contributed to feeling like it was taking a mental toll?
Yes. And obviously, you know, at any point in life, there are other contributing factors. So it was, you know, it was something that I had struggled with before, had struggled with previously. I'm talking more specifically about depression and anxiety. And I think that it just, for me, was a set of circumstances that I just found quite hard to navigate and deal with. I remember towards the end, we did the show for a long time, so that also was probably part of it. But I was just so at the end of my kind of capacity for it, and I was crying so much I couldn't even go on stage and bow at the end, because I was just like sat in a corner like sobbing, because I was just found the, obviously I really want to caveat it with there were also other things going on in my personal life, but I found the job really hard. Yeah. so I tried to find some support, sort of arts specific, because I was like, I feel like I need someone to understand like this world a little bit, to be able to tell them a little bit about what's going on. But just couldn't really find anything at the time. I was just like, it's just, no, not quite. Like, I just couldn't find the thing that I was looking for. And then I was like, well, maybe I can create the thing that I'm looking for. And then maybe I can, you know, support other people going through that. And I knew at the time, I think just who I am in my nature and my experience previously, I had supported people more in like a friend capacity, like people who also were struggling as part of the show. And like, you know,
you definitely supported me when I was, especially, I found it a little bit easier in the West End because I was back home with like my partner and whatnot. But on tour, it was hard. Man. It was really hard. And you definitely supported me a lot. And you were always really good at that, even before you trained as a wellbeing coach. So yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, you definitely supported me as well. I think we had a really good support system for each other.
It takes a certain type of person, and use the word strong, but a strong kind of person to go, I need help. I want to find that help. It doesn't exist. Other people must be looking for it. I'm going to be that help. That's an incredible mindset, because I think especially when you're looking for help, you're looking for someone else to help you, and realizing that doesn't exist and then becoming it I think that's amazing.
Yeah, incredible.
Amazing. I didn't even think about that at the time.
So what's the journey then between those two things of this whole sort of side of the wellbeing industry not existing to you setting up? How did you go about that?
Yes.
All while understudying at the time?
All while understudying, yeah. I studied for my master's degree whilst I was filming at Doctors. I've always straddled many different worlds. But I trained as a coach, originally as a coach, then set up my own business as a coach. So Law Right Coaching, very original name. And actually, weird timingly, I finished my qualification right at the start of the pandemic. So I ended up just doing loads of work in the pandemic. I built most of the stuff I did like just on Instagram and just doing like free sessions for people to like drop into and talk to.
Wow.
And I met Raffaella Covino, who's the founder and director of Applause for Thought. And we met on an Instagram live and just were like, we have all of the same ideas and connected so well. And so I started working with Applause for Thought, who are a mental health in the arts community interest company. And I was just basically holding and having lots of different conversations to try and figure out like, what are the pain points? Like, what is it that people feel like they need support with? What, like where are the things where we need to put more support in place? So I started working with Applause for Thought doing that. And through the kind of conversations I was having with Applause for Thought and also in my own personal one-to-one coaching, the Page One project came out because people's experience, so many layers. There's the mental health experience working in the arts, and then there's the other layer of what it means when you come from a marginalized group or background, and how the barriers that exist in then also accessing that kind of support. So it was like, it felt like it needed something more specific and niche because the needs are more specific and niche. So it was trying to create space like that. So it started off as a mentorship program to just give, like, try and build community and connection, and then has like since grown and expanded. So I've been doing both of them. So working with Applause for Thought, I work on a number of different sort of West End touring shows as their wellbeing lead. So I'm their in-house support for mental health and wellbeing. And then I also run the Page One project, which is helping people with like equality, diversity, accessibility, education, those kinds of things.
So with Applause for Thought, does that involve you sort of going into specific shows, specific theatres, and do you just basically have like an office hour or whatever, and people come to you, or do people book sessions? Yes.
So generally how it works is I will go in for a block of time, and then people book like anonymous. So we're always like neutral third party, because obviously sometimes the contributors to poor mental health are sometimes the people that you work for or you work with, and all of those things. So it's always confidential, always anonymous, so no one knows that you book in. But they just come and we do like half an hour. So we call them check-ins at Applause for Thought. So basically it's not therapy. People will come in and they can they might be looking for therapy, so we can sit down and I'll help them find the right support for them. We'll sort of go through it together. What sort of things they're looking for, what they're struggling with. Sometimes people come in and they're just like, I just need to talk. I just need to get this off my chest, and then I can go into the building and I can be absolutely fine. I just need to rant. I just need to talk it out. Sometimes people, I'm meeting people at all different sort of spaces and levels. And for lots of people, it's the first time they've ever spoke to someone who they don't know. So it's a really big thing, and I always hold it as a massive privilege to, that someone will come in that space and be like, I need help, because I know how hard taking that first step is, to be like, things are not all right with me. I know they're not, but I don't know how to make the next step happen.
And when you're seeing a lot of people, lots of different shows, do you see patterns that, given the means, you'd like to kind of sort earlier than when they get to the shows, or is it each person so individual that it's kind of hard to say?
I would say, so I work obviously with on-stage, off-stage, production offices, in drama schools. Across the spectrum, the thing I would say that comes up the most is anxiety and stress that people struggle with. I think part of that is because we work in an urgency culture. So I think that that's just in the foundations of what it means to be in like a sort of, the show must go on. We must do everything we can. We will drop everything. We will make it happen. Like, it be in people's lives as well, something that people care about so passionately, but something that actually is quite demanding. I think that it is just like opening up like the conversation around that, and just letting people know that there are different options for help, and that it's important to reach out for help if you're struggling, and people not feeling isolated, because we're always sitting also with most people who are in jobs feel very, very lucky to be there, right? And there's someone who's going to replace you in a second, in a heartbeat. So you don't want to be like, oh, like I'm struggling with this, or I'm, whatever that might be. It's hard. I think it's harder for people in this industry because you fought so hard to be there in the first place. You feel very lucky to be there, and you recognize that it could be taken away from you at any point. But I'm always trying to encourage people that we as humans can have duality. You can experience like gratitude for being in a job, and you can also find something really challenging and hard. You can also have challenging like interpersonal relationships at work, and all those kinds of things.
How do you reflect and use this for yourself, like in jobs? Because you were on tour last year.
Yeah.
What do you do for yourself that keeps you, afloat mentally?
Yeah. In all honesty, because I've been doing all these different types of work, when I went back to do a play, I was honestly astounded at the lack of responsibility I had.
What do you mean?
Because I've sat so long in like so much responsibility, and like making sure everyone's okay, making sure we're following up with it. Like there's so much responsibility that comes in my day-to-day work that I do, that when I was like, wait, you just want me to learn my lines and like show up and be a nice company member. I was like, this is amazing. But I do find that I use, like we use an analogy that they use in mental health first aid about the stress container, which is just basically I don't want to go into too much detail, but I think what I have taken, learning from like, listening to people and talking to people and education and all of those things, is the importance of being a human first. And like your job is something that comes after that. The importance of like having, not to the extent that I did where I'm always working so many jobs. I think that's the important thing. But I think having like values and interests and connections that go beyond something that in all honesty comes and goes and is amazing when it's there, but is a hard industry to be part of in that sense. I think like connecting to what's the wider picture, who am I outside of what I do, and connect, like the stress container is literally looking at that. It's a container, your stress fills up, it gets to the top, and then it starts to overflow
Bubble
when
over.
you're like snapping, and the tap is how we release the stress. And that is basically like, what are the things that I know that bring me like comfort or like peace or whatever that might be. And they can be tiny things, but they make a massive difference. Like I said to people sometimes, if you know being outside is one of those things for you, get off the tube 2 stops earlier and walk to that.
Nice.
Like so small, but those tiny things actually have a massive impact on our well-being, because we're making sure that we're not just going, which is what happens often. People then get anxious and they often then burn out.
And in terms of understudying and well-being, what are the challenges that appear for an understudy that you found in a mental health way that don't appear for someone who's maybe going on every night? Is there a big difference, or?
Yeah, I would say that they're different challenges. I think they are quite specific. I would say the challenges of being an understudy or a swing, and some of which I've, I guess, touched on. The sort of isolation that happens. And I think that we've spoken about that before, how you can feel so part of something, but then also slightly on the edge. You know, things like opening nights or things like that always feel like really hard.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of on the outside looking in, you know, walking out of stage door and everyone just being like
like looking over,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yes.
recognize you from the stage.
you know, think that. And if you don't necessarily connect to the people you're with, it can be incredibly isolating to just be on your own in a dressing room. And I guess on the other side of that, for people some people find the not knowing part really stressful and quite anxiety inducing.
What do you mean the not knowing part?
The constant feeling of like, when am I going to go on?
Oh, now we're talking.
Now we're
Exactly
speaking
what
your
got-
language.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what got me. Yeah.
Yes.
The not knowing is the worst thing.
Yeah.
Like, if I knew I was going on, fine. When you know you're going on, when you know your opening night is, you can plan for that. You can prepare for that. But it's the constant, just, I don't know. And then if someone comes off stage and they're just going, and your eyes just shoot to them like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you going to lose your voice? Are you going to drop dead right now? And I'm going to have to do it forever. Oh, no. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's the not knowing. Sorry.
No, that's exactly it. It's like being in sort of constant fight flight mode.
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
don't feel like you can relax. You don't like, and it affects your day. It affects you know, everything, because you're like, but I know that person coughed last night, so like, does that mean that I need to I'm gonna have an early night? You know, and then you don't go on, and you've put all this work and effort into it, and I think that side of it is really challenging.
And it depends on who you're understudying, right? Like, I was very lucky with someone I understudied on the most recent job. She would let me know. Or she asked, what do you need? And I was like, even if you're remotely feeling sick, just let me know. So I have that in my head.
Yeah.
So that if you then go off, and so, you know, she would come to me and go in the morning, like, just, you know, like, not feeling 100%.
Yeah.
I might be fine, I might not. And I'm like, okay, at least I have the information. But then maybe for you, that would be an absolute nightmare.
No idea how
Exactly.
you did that
Yeah.
at all.
But she asked me. I mean, this is Hannah, who's incredible and has done so much work that I think she knew to ask, but she asked, and so I told her what I needed, and that was it. But I think that is an anomaly in the industry of like someone thinking of their understudy before they think of themselves. I can't imagine comes up very often.
I was at the other end of the scale where in The Play That Goes Wrong in the West End, I said to the company manager, what is the latest that you can tell me that I am going on? Like, even if she found out at 9 a.m. and the show wasn't until 7:30, I was like, what's the latest you can tell me that I'm going? And she was like, at 6 o'clock when you come in for warm-up. And I was like, right, I do not want to know
Liam.
until I get in the building. But like, I'd been on loads.
Right, okay.
I'd been on loads, so I knew that I knew all the parts. There wasn't anything I necessarily had to like go over other than a fight call or whatever. So I didn't need to run lines. So it was fine. But I knew then, right, if my phone rings in the day, it's not going to be any bad news because I'm going to get that at 6 p.m. if I get it, you know.
Agent of chaos, you are.
Well,
Amazing. I mean, we've covered a lot of it, but we like to ask, is there anything in the industry, and you can take it as broadly as you like, that you would change? That if you had the power to change anything, what would that be? And you can take it from your own experience or the industry in a wide perspective.
I think on an industry-wide, I would, and what I will always champion for and fight for, is that we not just open doors, in fact, that we do a little bit of renovation work, you know, that we make, and you know, and that's kind of my philosophy of life in general. I think it's important that I leave the earth better than I found it. Like, I feel that's really important. And I believe that about the industry. I think that it's really important that we create spaces for people to be able to come into that might not normally be able to access that. And whatever that looks like, it could be being from a lower socioeconomic background and not having as much accessibility to it. It could be from a region, like from somewhere regionally and not having as much access to theatre. It could be about ethnicity, it could be disability, anything. I just think it's important that we widen the pool of voices, of people, of opportunities that exist. So that we have, there's more space for everyone. I think that I would change that. I think that the door's a little narrow. And I think we're kind of on a new build sort of thing / an old build. But yeah, I think I would, if I could change anything, I would change the access of people being able to get in from all sorts of different backgrounds.
Do you think things are moving in that direction?
I think that it's so funny, isn't it? In some, you kind of take sometimes, 3 steps forward, 10 steps back. In some ways, yes. And I don't think I can do the work I do if I don't stay positive and I don't stay motivated. I think the moment that I give in to despair is, what's the point? You know? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You have to believe that it's happening, and you have to believe that it's important. Yeah.
We've got some quick fire questions now.
Let's go.
For you. Okay. What has been the proudest moment of your career?
Oh, these are supposed to be quick. Proudest moment of my career. I'm going to bring it back to what we said earlier. The smashing of my own ceilings. Does that count?
Absolutely, yeah. But go on, give us the example.
As in, like, I think the proudest thing about my career is that I think I've done things that I never expected for myself, and that makes me feel proud, because I think
from the beginning as well, like the understudying and like doing the play that goes wrong, things that you never expected.
Exactly.
Versatility, that's
and
amazing.
A villain, I've well, actually always saw that for you.
That's amazing. Okay, what's the hardest part about being an understudy?
The hardest part about being an understudy is the unknown. Because I think there's so much that comes under the and I think part of like the like isolation and the sitting in this weird middle space and not feeling like you're contributing. I think all of that for me is the unknown part.
Yeah.
What's the latest notice you've ever been given about going on?
Interval, I guess, going on halfway through a show.
Halfway through, so you had like 15 minutes to prepare.
Yeah.
Is that on play that goes
And
wrong?
that is a full face of makeup. You got to get done.
I was going to say, because for guys, there's less to do, right?
There's less to do.
If you're putting on Sandra, like that's 15 minutes alone. Do you have time to think about it, or you just are literally like, I've just got to physically get ready for what it is?
You'll get it. And also, they're like, you should always be like slightly pre-prepped. They'd always say that to us, and it's like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to put my hair in pinkos every night just in case I go on.
Also, doing that, if you're doing an understudy assistant stage manager track, like, are you going to get ready? Are you going to get ready to be a character while you also have to sort props out backstage and stuff? It's a different role.
It's a completely different role, and I do think that's harder on people who play characters that have like full glam.
Yeah,
it's definitely harder to go on last minute. But I probably should have had some of that makeup on. Never mind.
It's like that story, and I think everyone has a different version of the story, but the story of the understudy that is on a show for like 5 years or whatever, and they get told, finally that night, they get told they're going on, they're like, I'm just going to go and get something from my car.
The mousetrap story.
So this is the thing, I know it as a mousetrap story, but I also hear it as a Wicked story.
Oh really? I've heard the mousetrap.
I've had the mousetrap.
Okay, that's interesting, because in the Wicked version of the story, so the story is that there's an understudy who's been understudying for years and years and years on a show, and they never, ever, ever go on. And they basically just get to the point where they've stopped going over their lines because they just think it's never going to happen. And then one day it actually happens, and they get told, you're on tonight. Mm-hmm. And they go, oh, I'm just going to get something from my car. And they drive in their car and they drive away. They disappear and they never, ever come back. I really want to find out throughout the course of this podcast whether that story is real or not. But I've heard different versions. But the Elphaba version for Wicked would that mean that they would have to be sat every night in green? Or would you have to put that on, like, how long would that take? 20 minutes, 25 minutes?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, like a decent chunk of time.
You'd have to be prepped for certain roles like that, wouldn't you?
You would have. I've heard that they do have to be, but I don't know. I don't know. And we need to confirm with sources, reliable sources.
How early on was the did you get told interval?
That was later on. I actually think in terms of that sort of thing, I've been quite lucky. I didn't have anything like really early on, which I honestly don't know how people cope with. It is so, when you get so nervous. The first time I went on, I was so nervous. I was like, this is a horrible thing. Like, why am I doing this? This is a horrible thing to put myself through. I felt ill.
Honestly, I think every understudy, well, every understudy I've spoken to has that exact thought of before they go, why have I done this to myself?
Yeah.
I have chosen to be in this situation.
Like, what a horrible choice.
Yeah, what a horrible choice. And also, people do it again and again and again. And I imagine
know.
Yeah.
think it every single time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's crazy.
It's the nightmare that people outside the industry have, where you are on stage and
Yeah.
everyone's doing stuff and
Yeah.
you don't know what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
But that's a job.
Yeah.
If we walked into the dressing room, what are we most likely to find you doing?
So I learnt Welsh. I did stretching. I was like, me and Louisa were so funny. She'd do a face mask, and then on the other side, I'd be like doing my learning to count in Welsh. And I was like, I'm going to stretch every night. So I was always like, and then I studied as well in my dress. I'm quite like boring person.
I mean, I am calling crap on this. There were a number of times I walked into the
No,
dressing room
I was
and you'd be
always
eating popcorn
productive.
watching chewing gum. Like, absolutely.
No, do you know what? Me and Louise always used to watch if we were ever in together. We didn't usually. It would be a boy and a girl, wouldn't it? Who would go
Doing the
track. So we wouldn't be in there together. But if ever we were, we would set up a little thing and we'd watch Drag Race together. Those were the best days.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'm over again my productivity.
But those are those little things as well that you're talking about, like to look after your mental health, like doing the things that bring you joy, like watching Drag Race or whatever with your mate. Like that's it's really important sometimes.
It's so important. I think it just like they can be boring. Do you know what I mean? Like you actually have to find things that are like interesting. Or I think that's why I think for me the like learning and stuff like that was helpful, because it's like I need my brain to be stimulated and stuff. There was a day when Louisa she would if we were going out in the evening as well, she would spend the whole show doing full glam. But there was a show where she was like literally lying with like a face mask on, like cucumber. She was doing like a full skincare thing, and then it was like, you're on. She'll kill me for saying this. We might have to take it out, but
She won't care.
she won't.
Sorry.
It's always when you don't expect it, right? Like we had it on the last tour, but where like someone seems fine at the beginning of the show and suddenly within the first act their voice goes, and then you got to go, okay, well, here we go. And
that was quite near the end of the run as well.
was
And you know when you
near
get
the
towards the end of your contract and you're a bit like, everyone's going to be fine. They're going to want to do the last 25 shows. You're like, 25 shows is a lot of shows.
the thing you don't do is say that out loud. Henry. We had a guy in the cast who literally turned to me about 2 months before, was it maybe 2 months before or a month before, and went, you know what, let's just see this through. Let's just, I think it's going to be all fine. And he ended up going on for all of his characters.
He was the only
He was the only one. And I was like, hey, Hen, remember when you said that to me? And he was like, yes, I do. And it was like instant. I was like,
No, what is people's capacity towards it? It's actually prime time for
Yeah.
illness, for injury, because your body. It's like that statistic about cars. Isn't it like the most car accidents happen when you're 10 minutes away from home?
oh,
I wouldn't be surprised.
did you relax?
Because you're like, oh, I'm nearly there now. So you stop focusing as much, and that's when people get injured. That's when people lose their voice. That's when people.
That's a
get sick.
great understudy
Yeah.
analogy. Understudies take note.
Yeah, get ready. The end of your contract is going to be
Don't
hard
let
work.
them relax. every time you see them, just scare them.
Yeah.
Keep them on the edge of the room.
Hello? Yeah, no, I'll tell her. How's it going on? Oh, well, I'm glad everyone looks fabulous anyway. Great, yeah, I'll let her know. All right, just keep tending to the wounds. All right, love you lots, bye. I hate this phone. Laura, I'm so sorry, but Andy, our omnipotent company manager, says that you have to go because you are indeed on tonight. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We've loved having you. It's
been wonderful.
Been amazing.
been
Great
wonderful.
questions. Great chat.
That's it from us this week. You've been listening to You're On Tonight, produced by and recorded at the Sound Company in London.
And if you've enjoyed the show, turn on automatic downloads to never miss an episode. Like, subscribe, share, follow, etc., etc., etc. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at You're On Tonight. And tell your friends, spread the word, pass this episode around.
And get in contact. If you have comments, suggestions of guests, questions on how understudying in the industry works, let us know. Or if you're an understudy with fantastic stories you want to share, then get in contact through all of those socials at You're On Tonight.
Maybe you'll be called by the understudy phone soon.